You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Cricket Podcast. It's day 2 of the third test at the MCG. England fought back so well and then immediately blew up to be probably on the verge of losing the Ashes, I'd have thought. I am Jack Hope. I'm joined by Ross Legg, who, for the people on YouTube, is incorrectly labelled as Max Rowe Brown because Max Rowe Brown is too lazy to create a video overlay with Ross's name on it. Ross, how are you doing on this Boxing Day?
I've been better, mate, if I'm perfectly honest. I, again, allow myself to get suckered in to the positivity of England, and then we almost forget how desperately bad they are at the same time. The only thing that has cheered me up this morning is you digging Max Rowe Brown in the first thing on the podcast, because let's be honest, he is lazy. And
he is lazy. He's asleep.
We don't say it often enough. And he's all about the personal brand of this podcast, isn't he? He wants Max Rowe Brown on everything, and that's just typical of his personality. Yeah,
he's selfish. He's lazy.
Looks like Ed Sheeran and denies it.
Yeah, that's probably the most heinous crime, isn't it? It's the denial of the Ed Sheeran lookalike situation, or Martin Freeman. Not now that Martin Freeman's sort of old, but if you look at Freeman Office era and you look at Max, there's definitely
take this away. You take his little beard away.
Mm-hmm.
What's hiding under there? Martin Freeman 2.0.
Yeah, or Sheeran. If you want to see Max in action, actually, he wrote some songs, so you can see whether the Max Rowe Brown experience musically lives up to the Ed Sheeran. I think it does. That's on the Christmas special, which is a couple of episodes ago. Ross, before we do talk about the cricket, which you've teased we're going to be talking about cricket on this show, would you like to give some messages to our listeners?
Yes, there's already 70 odd people watching this, so welcome. You're going to enjoy the England Pomme de Despair, but you should tune in for the rest of our shows. We're probably not going to have the full 5 days on this Test match, but we will continue to cover it. And there's also, I'm sure we'll do some bits on India versus South Africa as well. But you should like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, give us a 5-star rating on Spotify. They now got some rating on there, so throw yourself into the ring on that. Be a cross-format player for us, and then also go to Twitter, go to Instagram, and follow us at the Cricket Pod. Thanks very much for joining us this morning, because this should be extra painful to talk about.
Yeah, there's a few people in the chat, just say quick hellos to Prajmal, Raj, Incredible Met, Mr. Nobody, Akshay, Rick and Bra, etc. Say hello on this lovely December morning with all the good news that you could hope for if you're an England fan. The good news obviously being that the test will be over sooner rather than later. You didn't have to endure 5 days of agony. Probably only one more day left. Ross, what happened in the cricket? Why are England bad?
After England was skittled out yet again for under 200, England on day 2 were already going for the damage limitation approach. And fortunately, the bowlers had the bit between their teeth. They weren't copping all the criticism for daft selection, for lack of application, or a general void of batting basics. They were here to put a few wrongs right. And Anderson, who's been outspoken in his defence of the bowling unit this week, and rightly so, in I think pretty much everyone's point of view, rather than like Ashley Giles, Tom Harrison and Chris Silverwood, stood up to be counted here, taking 4 for 33, supported very nicely by Mark Wood's hostility, which was clearly missing in the last Test match. Robinson's usual nagging lines and length supporting him nicely as well. And day 2 damage limitation was achieved. I mean, we were sitting there. Australia only managed an 82-run lead, which, let's face it, is a minor miracle, considering where we are after being blitzed out for 187. It was England's best sessions and best tour day so far. Unfortunately, that positivity that I was kind of building up there, I still find myself getting positive about reading that bit out.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, it just wasn't to be, because in this series there's always been that. Unfortunately, we need to talk about this. So just as soon as England had put their big boy pants on, they promptly demonstrated that they should have kept their nappies on. As the evening session saw England decide to offer 2-for-1 deal in the Wicket supermarket, giving
it's Boxing Day sales.
Yeah, it's Boxing Day sales, and England was straight in there. Do you know what? We've just taken 1 wicket, have 2. You're allowed that, including, and we can't blame Jack Leach. Yeah, we can't blame Jack Leach too much, because the night watchman thing is always a bit silly. But I mean, he literally just left the ball that was hitting the stumps. Obviously, it was going to hit the stumps. Boland bowls stump to stump. That is literally why he's in the team. And it's a really, really damning indictment that England are now on 52 ducks for the year. I think it is.
They're one off the record.
Yeah, well, in the chat, there's really helpfully, we've got people say it's 53, people say it's 52, people say it's 51. So let's go for 52.
I thought it was 51, but it might be 52.
Yeah, fine. Either which way. Either which way.
It's getting to the point where it's quite difficult to keep track of.
Yeah, we've run out of fingers. Yeah. We've run out of fingers.
We've got 10 fingers, 10 toes each. We're up to 40. We're off the charts.
Yeah.
The numbers don't go this high.
Yeah, so that's been the problem, Jack. So I think, there's only one place to start, really, and we're going to start at the start of the day, aren't we?
Well, let's do. We've intermittently in this series done a man of the day type thing, and we've started with a positive note. Somebody who's left their mark on the match. I think let's cash in the positivity chips early in the podcast. Do a man of the day. I think we probably have to say that goes to James Anderson for his 4 wickets here. 23 overs, 33 runs, 10 maidens, 4 wickets, economy rate of 1.43. He gets the danger man, Smith, gets Marcus Harris in the 70s. He gets.
He'd already picked up David Warner. Yeah. We picked up Warner last night. Yeah,
and then he gets the cum dog, who's having a bit of a slash, but isn't it? There've been some criticisms of Anderson through his career for his ability. Sometimes when he travels, he goes to some places and his average is a bit high. I think in Australia it's a bit high. In the last few years, though, it seems whenever he goes away, he's on like a personal mission to correct. Or to rubber stamp the legacy, if you like. We saw him go to India and take those wickets in the Chennai test that ultimately sort of pulled the game into England's grasp. Now he's in Australia. He's averaging 14 for the series, Ross. He's a pretty good bowler, this James Anderson boy.
Yeah, he's not too bad, is he? But I think some of the criticism also been that sometimes he bowls a little bit, and this is ridiculous. This is the mental gymnastics people go into of being that James Anderson deliberately bowls so people don't hit him, so he gets a better economy. Is what I've read on a couple of, and just like, this guy's taken how many test wickets, and he's just like, no, he's Mr. Economy. He's not. He's doing his level best to do it. We didn't pick him in the first Test match. And then from then on, we just like, oh, by the way, can you perform some miracles here? He performed a miracle here, as far as I'm concerned. Taking 4 for 33 is a great effort. And actually standing up to be counted is what we've asked our senior players to do. And then that's actually happened. And then lo and behold, yeah, England can't bat at all. It was so embarrassing. But I thought the approach we took, well done, Marcus Harris. England have managed to prolong his international career.
He was lucky. He was. I can't believe anybody seriously thinks he's likely to be able to produce runs. He would be out of place in the England team. That's the harshest criticism that anybody in world cricket can be given. Marcus Harris could open the batting for England, and he'd blend in.
I've got a very, very controversial opinion around something around Usman Khawaja, and saying that Usman Khawaja should have that spot.
Yeah,
is my view. And if Usman Khawaja was called anything other than Usman Khawaja, I think he was in that position. But that is a story for another day that we could talk about.
You don't think Langer likes him?
Oh, yeah, I think there's definitely there's a bit of beef there. It's a bit of bad blood.
A bit of beef, yeah. I can see that. So Anderson, man of the day. He was heroic. He's having a great series. It was frustrating a little bit third test of the series, England are finally playing a bowling attack that makes sense for the conditions that this match is taking place in. They played the spinner when they shouldn't have in the first test at the Gabba. They didn't play the spinner in the second test when they should have played when they should have played the spinner, and they forgot to play Mark Wood in the second test when they should have played Mark Wood. Now they've finally got what I think is probably the right bowling attack, albeit there's none of them can bat. But we saw the difference that makes. They all contributed, I thought, and England throughout the day. They say hunt in packs, don't they? That's the phrase they use. And I think England, largely speaking, did hunt as a pack here. Robinson backed up Anderson pretty well by keeping it tightish and being a threat as he has done. Mark Wood, you mentioned the hostility. Stokes gets knocked around the park a bit as he has done on this tour, and I'm still not 100% sure he's fit. But I think we probably should give a short mention to Jack Leach as well, who, after being absolutely walloped, basically did the job that's been asked of him. 3 and over, 15 overs, 46 for 1. He'd maybe like that to be 2.5 runs and over instead of 3 and over. But it's not a match losing effort at all, is it? And then it gives 15 overs of rest to Anderson, to Robinson, to Wood, who can come in and out of the attack and put Australia under actual pressure. So the England bowling unit, that's an 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 performance. If you do that, if you play like that every day when you go away, you'll be a really competitive test side. It had all the ingredients to pressurise this Australian back lineup, which I think, Ross, we've sort of thought through this tour hasn't absolutely wowed us. You've got 3 great ingredients. You've got Smith, you've got Labuschagne, you've got Warner. But I don't think we're sitting here and saying Marcus Harris, what a player. Travis Head played that unbelievable knock at the Gabba. He's a player with weaknesses, a player who can be got at.
Alex Carey. Tim Payne's been in the team ahead of him for 2 years, or 3 years. So that says all you need to know.
And Cameron Green's really yet to find his feet in Test cricket. And go on, Ross.
But is that bit, like Cameron Green's role, and this is the bit where you're kind of talking about England's bowling lineup and saying that there is a little bit of maybe some imbalance in terms of fitness levels or whatever. But Cameron Green is offering that bit, right? He's going at less than a run and over. In the first innings, went at less than a run and over. But that is because England are so bad. Australia.
The bowling. We're talking about the batting here, and England getting it right for once with the selection. And really, if you bowl a team out for 267 in the first innings, you should always be well in that match.
Agreed. Agreed. That's what I was trying to.
That's 8 out of 10 bowling performance. That means you bowled a team out probably 87 overs, so less than a day. What you want to be doing. You're not in the field for ages. None of the bowlers have been overworked. 23 overs is the most overs bowled by anyone. That was Anderson. They've all put in a shift, all contributed a wicket. Stokes aside, all been pretty tight. It's a good day's cricket from England.
Great day's cricket, and that's what I was trying to get at. That the Australian batters in this situation as well don't have that much pressure on, because all they need to do is get more than they get more than 185 or whatever we got, and we're kind of sitting there pretty. And actually, that means that England even have an even tougher ask. And I just think this is it shouldn't be underestimated how good of an effort it was by the England bowlers today.
Right. So that gets us to the end of that. Were there any Australians that impressed you? Actually, we said Warner's innings last night was really set the tempo. He got 38 or 42, but he was gone by the end of the day. Harris picked up 76. I don't think this was a legendary 76. I think this is almost a freak innings from somebody who I don't think should be anywhere near an international batting lineup. But he did get 76.
It's his best ground. So he's got 3 centuries there already. I think it's his highest average where he plays. So I think if there was kind of a horses for courses selection, and I think Australia almost have that, right? They have a core set of players, and then their approach has been, do you know what, we're going to pick Boland because he plays really well here. We've got a good record. We're going to do that. Marcus Harris probably survives. And if this was an Adelaide Test match, if this was being played in Adelaide, then I think Marcus Harris doesn't survive to this game.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, I think he's only playing because he's got a good record there. I think again, even when the top order. Like the top order did their job. I mean, the two opening batsmen got over 100 runs between them. We could only dream of that happening, for goodness sake. It's embarrassing. But I think, again, just that they were able to contribute at least a little bit. Everyone kind of got starts, and I think they'll probably be a little bit frustrated that no one kind of went on to kind of get another score. But I think that was because of England's bowling. I think England were all over it. There was positivity. There was, I don't know, people talk about passion, but there is a piece where they were hunting in packs. I don't think we let them get away, and it just shows that what could have been from the first Test match if we got our selection right and got some better preparation.
I mean the problem with all of this and all the what haves, could haves, should have, etc. is the batting, and we should probably get onto that now. Before we do, we've got a really decent number of people watching on YouTube, Ross. 215 at the moment. I wonder if that's got anything to do with the rain in in the India-South Africa test. If you are watching on YouTube, hit like, hit subscribe. I think we're up to 9,170 subscribers. We would like break the 10k mark at some point. So tell a friend. Share it on your social media. Go on to Cricket Reddit and tell everyone on Cricket Reddit how good this podcast is. We're not allowed to do that. We'll be banned. But
again, I'll tell you what it is, mate. Leo, one of our members on our YouTube channel, just said that Marcus Harris averaged 55 in the 2021 County Championship. Ollie Pope averages 80. Look how good that goes, mate. Doesn't make counts nothing.
This is what Dan was saying. Dan was like, "Oh, Marcus Harris is a serious player," and it's like we can talk about this actually. But this is an interesting point to talk about leading into what England did. First class batting performance really should only be seen as an indicator of what someone's likely ceiling will be in Test cricket. It's not averaging 55 in the county championship doesn't have that much of a close link with what you will average in Test cricket. What it suggests is that the best you could possibly hope for in Test cricket is something like your first-class career average. If you look at it, there's so few players in England anyway that have a Test career average higher than their first-class career average. They all fail. It's just the degree to which you fail. And Harris, it's quite a severe degree. Same with Pope. Same with Bairstow. Same with, well, not really Zach Crawley because he's so bad in first class cricket. It's not actually that much of a drop off. But that's what the step up's all about. It's how can you mitigate or how can you reduce the failure or the drop off from your first class average to your Test average best. The best players, that's what they're doing. Cook, it's a small drop off. That's how it works. It's a little bit different in Australia because I think the Sheffield Shield's a higher standard, so it's a better indicator of how you will go in Test cricket. And you see some players actually do perform better in Test cricket than they did in first class cricket. Labuschagne, Smith, Adam Voges, of course. But that's when you look at first class averages. If you want to do a data from a data mindset, think about it as an indicator of what the ceiling of the player could be. Don't think about it as a predictor of what they are likely to achieve. Let's go on to England's batting after that sort of pretty brief aside on data. Ross, where do you want to start?
Well, let's just start with what did we expect here, Jack? We said that England have brought in Zach Crawley. Zach Crawley has come in with an average of 11 this year. That's not
gone down.
That's 11. And we're asking Beaker out of the Muppet Show to go and play against three of the best bowlers in the world. One, I think Zach Crawley's being hung out to dry, I think, with this selection. Two, I think there is that bit where, how can we even have a go at the guy? It's like we're having a go at a puppy who's not been toilet trained and has just had a shit on the floor. Like we're in that position. It was almost like we're an unfair owner to the puppy that is Zach Crawley, and I think it's absolutely devastating for him and Hamid. If I'm perfectly honest, Hamid is there as well, just the rabbits in the headlights. Pat Cummins is too good. Stark is too good for them. Like Boland is better. Is better. Too good for them as well. And it's just in a little bit of. I just feel sorry for them. I think is what I'm trying to get at. I think.
Yeah, it was. It's difficult. It's difficult to have too much of a go at them again when it is really a question of talent. They're not. There's not. What are we? They're not getting out because they're doing something stupid, or they haven't practiced, or whatever it is. It's not even necessarily a lack of preparation. They're in the nets all the time. I think it's we're at the stages. What are the stages of grief? We're at the acceptance stage. You have anger. It's
denial. Yeah. So we've gone way past denial.
Yeah, I think. We're not denying that they're bad.
No, anger. We've gone past. They've not hit any fucking runs. It's disgraceful. We're at the bargaining stage. We've got all the way to acceptance.
Or is it
it's bargaining, depression.
Bargaining, we were bargaining for maybe if you change the team around, it'd be better. That was the bargain. Bargain didn't work.
Waking up seeing the score with 31 for 4 this morning, that's depressing.
This is the situation that England were in, though, Ross. They had 12 overs to make it to the end of the day. Now, it's a tricky period. It is going to be tricky. Australia are going to give everything they have got for 12 overs. Light's going to go a little bit. The Aussie crowd, 43,000 Australians in the MCG, probably pretty tanked up at this point. Decent atmosphere. It's a juicy-ish pitch, isn't it? It's going to be a fresh, hard ball. There's going to be chances. But it's actually... flip side of this is it's only 12 overs. It's 36 balls. 72 balls, not 36 balls.
I've left that one again. I've left that one again.
It's 72 balls to get through. And I think if you are going to have a criticism, and we probably should have a criticism, it's again, they don't seem like they've got a game plan to manage any of these situations. They go out there and they just get out. They do the wrong thing. I say they do the wrong thing. It comes back to that talent point, doesn't it? People who are bad at something do make bad decisions. When I play chess, I'm bad at chess, for example, Ross. I make bad decisions all the time. Accidentally lose my queen because I didn't see the knight. That's what we're looking at here. We're looking at beginner level Test match cricketers playing intermediate to advanced level Test match cricketers. There's a big talent differential here. Go on, Ross.
No, my bit here, I completely agree with you. And what's really frustrating is that we talk about the data quite a lot on this show, and we have the data, we have that bit, and sometimes England just don't have a dearth of talent. Sometimes countries just go through that period where they don't have a lot of talent available to them. But England have kind of gone, do you know what? Let's try the guys who've got the best average and the best thing in county cricket. They've not really worked out, like Rory Burns, who probably still should be in this 11. But then we are sitting there almost hoping for a miracle. And the way in which England prepare for this, and when we've got plenty of India fans, and you would have seen this over the summer, even though all the English commentators still refer back to, we're going to be ready for the Ashes because of X and Y. We're going to be ready for this. So we are always building up to that point. And yet here we are with Hamid and Crawley with a real lack. They've got a complete lack of Test match experience.
Yeah. And
they're opening the batting. And you're a bit like, how has it got to this point where we've had 3 years to prepare or however much time, and we're still in that position where we decide, no, let's give them some experience in this. It's just nonsense.
I think some of this is process. So there's England this year, the top 7, Root averages 62. The rest of them average sub 20 if you combine them. Root is effectively 3 times better than any other England player or the average England player in the top 7. Which is a problem. I think some of this comes back to process, though. You said you feel sorry for Hamid and Crawley going out to open the batting. We talked about that point. First-class career is a good indicator of what someone's likely ceiling in Test match cricket is going to be. with that in mind, what's the thought process that has gone through the heads of the selectors to pick two guys who average 30 in first class cricket and send them out there? And like you say, you're effectively hoping for a miracle based on sort of what? Now I know that the retort to that is that it's a poor generation and there might not be loads of other players, but I think these two are a fair way down the list. I'm not sure either of these two is better than Dom Sibley and Rory Burns. Now, I know those two don't light the world up, but if you look at over a 5-match series, those two will probably at some point contribute something positive. I genuinely can't see, over a 5-match series in Australia how Hamid or Crawley would be able to do that. I think there's a lot of evidence they can't do it at the level below. There's a lot of evidence they can't do it at this level. So why are they there? What's the process? What has gone through England or Chris Silverwood's head to be like, these are the two guys of everybody playing professional cricket in England that I want opening the batting Boxing Day Test MCG? Well, I think the thought process is basically that Hamid's got a really interesting story, so they're aware of him. I genuinely think this is what it is. He's got media coverage. As far as cricket players go, he is more he's one of the more high-profile red ball only players. He's probably as high-profile as Dom Sibley, maybe even a little bit more. People really want him to do well, and so I think he's being picked effectively on goodwill. He had a season and a half of decent cricket at county level. Didn't, we're saying decent here, as an average in the 40s. He didn't dominate by any stretch. He played effectively the entry-level standard for interest from a national selector. But because he has this backstory, because when he was a kid he went to India and did okay, they're like, send him in. But he's got clear deficiencies. He can't play pace bowling. Like, he's doing a job where you absolutely need to be able to do that, and he can't really do it. Then you look at Crawley, and why have they got him? Well, as like many people will know, it's sort of an Ed Smith legacy pick. They went to the same school, they played at the same county. It's a real old boys thing that he's in there. And Crawley also has this interesting backstory. I think he has a dad that sort of sent him around the world to go and learn how to play spin, to learn how to play high pace. And to England, they looked at his performance in county cricket and I guess disregarded that because he had a dad that tried to teach him how to play fast bowling. That's the selection process. It's not. There's not really any other input into that. That's how England are constructing a test team. Now, neither of those decisions, the decision tree that has led there, is so, from a logical perspective here, so fallible that it's beyond belief that it actually has happened. So that's they're out there. It's very difficult, as you say, Ross, to really have a go at them. But there are questions about why they are there, over players that as we say aren't going to light the world on fire, but have shown an ability to do something at a Test match level consistently. Rory Burns in the last innings, he looked like he'd adapted his game a little bit to make himself not such a walking wicket. He got 35, and we're talking 35. That's a good score in this England lineup. But they've jettisoned him to bring in Crawley, who averages 11. So there's no evidence in his first class career that he'll be, in his Test career that he'll be, in recent form. And they're like, go out there, most high profile test of the series. We need to win this. We must not lose this to keep the series alive. And be the saviour. It's what are the chances of that actually working? Ross, I need to quickly go get my laptop charger. If you could expand on that or add your thoughts, I will be listening.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. So I think from my perspective, it comes back to our preview show where we talked about how England needed to limit the amount that we need to actually reduce our chances of losing. We need to increase our chances of drawing. And reduce, like, winning is kind of, unfortunately, when you're a shit team, is a nice to have. England should be looking to try and draw as many Test matches as possible, or at least try to build that percentage up as much as possible. And someone like Dom Sibley, who is, let's be fair, yeah, I agree, he averaged 19. And we're on this merry-go-round.
He's a limited player.
Yeah, he's a very limited player. But I tell you what, he leaves well. England's whole bit at the moment. I'd much rather have Dom Sibley in facing 100 balls and getting 20 runs, and trying to then hit 150. I don't know, whatever he's going to. But at the moment, Jack Crawley is just not the answer. Rory Burns, we said, was going to be the scapegoat. That was just going to be the thing, wasn't it? Like once the media got hold of it, Chris Silverwood's position always became untenable in terms of if Rory Burns gets picked again and he gets nothing, then Chris Silverwood is an idiot. He's already in that part, but the whole the public relations element to it has already taken hold of this England tour. Right. Zach Crawley now needs to be in the side for the next 3 Test matches, or the next 2 Test matches.
Well, yeah. So this is another process thing, isn't it? Their whole ethos is we give people 1 too many tests, not 1 too few, or 5 too many, 5 too few. They've now backed themselves into a corner where they're picking somebody who realistically would probably be dropped from the Kent first 11 if someone decent came along. That he is. Oh, it's true. You can't get round this fact. He averages 30 in first class cricket. If somebody good came along for Kent, he wouldn't be opening the batting for them. They'd have to move. They'd have to go down the order, or they drop him. He's not a solution for Kent long term. And he's playing for England because he's got this backstory. It is ridiculous. A few people have been asking Ross what potential solutions might be structurally from an English point of view. And I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this, and then we'll just go through the questions that we've got. We've got a few, so we'll do 10 minutes of questions or so now. Unless you've got any points on the end of on the rest of the day, but we can get to that later. Structurally speaking, what is wrong with England? So let's take selection out of this. What is it that is meaning that they produce this pretty poor generation of Test cricketers?
I think it comes back to and people might not know, but in politics in England, a lot of people have to go to the same schools to get into a position of power. So you hear about Eton College, you hear about Cambridge and Oxford, etc. And I kind of think England kind of have that problem. We've talked about that inclusion and diversity, Jack, before, haven't we? In terms of actually a lot of the England team have been to private school. They've had that. They've had the silver spoon kind of glide path into the England team, and there is a lack of personality, I suppose. That you talk about having good backstories, but I mean Ben Stokes has got a bit of a fighting spirit. He obviously got the Burnley Express, or the Burnley Lara, whichever you want to call him, and there is a bit where you need that diversity, you need that character, and some of these guys almost have that bit of just be like, I deserve to be in this England team, and they've done fuck all, which is really difficult, I think. So that, I think there's an immediate problem. I don't agree with all the opposed 100 guys on Twitter. I don't think that's
100's only been around for 6 months. Yeah.
This is the bit. I was literally took the words right out of my mouth. It's just like we've had one competition around it, and they're just like all of Test cricket, all of our problems are there. England haven't been good at Test cricket for about 6 years. And
except at home, but then they're so
we juice it. We juice it, don't we?
Yeah, no, that is true. That's true, and they've got 2 generational bowlers in Root and not Root in Anderson and Broad, and that's normally enough. Bat to 9. They bat to 9 at home, and they have 2 bowlers who will over 6-7 home tests win 3 or 4 of them just by themselves.
Yeah, and what the countries that come over, the country that India come over, and who do they get? Who do we roll out? Go and play against Derbyshire, and that's no offence to Derbyshire, but that's not a good preparation to go and play against England, is it?
No, not really.
Let's be honest. So there's a couple of things there. And I think we probably should do a show on this, or should we? We should probably do a bit of a how can we solve England's batting crisis, bring like Dan Weston on, etc. Because there is just some major structural issues. What about you, Jack?
I mean, they say, don't they? Don't play the county championship in the middle of the summer. I think there are a couple of things you could do. One, stop using stupid ball. The actual problem here a lot of the time is that county cricket is not designed as a pathway to create England cricketers. It's all of these counties are, effectively they're businesses. They're trying to make money, survive, win trophies. Whatever it is, like it's not their job is not actually to create England Test cricketers, and if they do, sometimes that's detrimental because they put all their effort into creating an excellent talent, and then they never play for them. So there's not really anything that incentivizes them producing good players. What I would do if you could change that, and I think you sort of do have to change that to get any progress. I'd make county cricket a little bit more like Test cricket by not using the Duke's ball all the time, which means you'll need quicker bowlers, you'll need better spinners. It means when you do play in April, May, and September, which is unavoidable in English cricket. It's not just professional cricket that gets played in those months. Amateur cricket is played in those months. It's the English summer, not one of the all-time great summers in the world. It rains a lot here. It's wet. Even in June and July, the weather can be pretty poor. It's not some panacea to just be like play it in the hot season. There isn't really a hot season here. The average high in August is 21. It's England, not Delhi. So I'd use the Duke's ball though to just flatten it out a little bit. One of the other things they could do is when the 100's being played is take the people from first class cricket who are the best of the rest, if you like, and play some best of the rest games. Just divide the country north, south, east, and west, and have the 44 best first class cricketers not playing in the 100 play at some of the outgrounds or play at Hove or the grounds not used for the 100 and actually get some best v best experience. Because in addition to county cricket really operating as this entity that is for the counties, which it's fine I suppose if you like county cricket, but not fine if you're England. Which incentivises just producing loads of 75 mile an hour bowlers that can nibble the Dukes around, and they won't change that, because if they had a different ball, they'd have all these bowlers on their books that couldn't use it, so they have to keep using the Dukes ball. But in addition to all of that, you do have some counties that are quite bad at red ball cricket. Not all, but some of them are focusing on white ball cricket. So say Sussex, where we're from, they were playing like 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds who barely played for their club front 11s in county championship matches. Now you can't tell me that performances against that team are in any way likely to predict, help. You get good at Test cricket, so maybe you just need to sometimes in the season concentrate the best talent down into fewer teams to give people some experience against the best bowlers and put them under pressure and so on. I suppose that's what the point of Division 1 is, Division 2, but that isn't necessarily how it plays out, is it? So I think there are a few problems there. I think it's got very little to do with cricket being played in August, June and July.
Or the 100. There is that bit where people talk about ECB's priorities and all that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, for them, is that Australia, New Zealand, even India to a certain extent have proven you can fight on multiple fronts. Right, you don't just it doesn't have to all be all on one, and I think England do have some of the players who could play multi-format. I don't think we don't need that, but I do think we need a bit of a change in structure. I think we need to have separate coaches for white ball cricket and red ball cricket. I think there needs to be a better organisational structure around it. So maybe me as the management consultant in the background can be brought in, and I can figure that out for them. But yeah, it's all a bit of a shambles at the moment. We should do a proper special on it, I think, Jack.
Yeah, maybe. There's a few people in the chat. Chattil says increase overseas players to 3. That's a way of increasing the talent. Kevin Peterson was going on about this, and he was like, when I first played county cricket, there were these were the overseas players, and he listed a load of people that weren't actually playing first class cricket when he made his debut, or I think ever played with him. But maybe throwing open a few more slots to different teams, because you've got to remember as well, England are having their summer, a lot of the world is having the winter, so there are Australians who are sitting on their arse effectively, or coming over and playing club cricket or something that could be the third overseas player. South Africans the same. There's probably a few.
That works two ways, man. That also works two ways. So Marcus Williams in the chat also talks around how about sending some of your county batsmen to play in Australia in the winters, right? And actually in doing some of that stuff and playing in Sheffield Shield cricket, etc. I mean, as much as people will laugh at James. That's one of the issues. But people laugh at, say, James Vince, right? James Vince probably didn't get the fairest crack.
He got a very fair crack. He got a very fair crack. He played 20 tests. That's
it's
crack.
Not bullshit. He did not play 20 tests.
Let's have a look at this now. Right,
he did not play 20 tests.
James Vince.
And And you don't have to, you don't have to read out your Google search as we're going. But I think my view on this is that if you've got players who are going out to play in certain conditions,
13 tests.
That's not 20 tests, is it?
That's a
long way
tests,
from. That's a long way from 20 tests.
It's 13.
But yeah, I think if someone's going, what was his average?
24.
Whoa, that's so good. Bring it back.
350s.
But it's I'm not saying that James is the answer, but I'm saying that kind of approach of someone who is willing to go and put themselves and play in different conditions actually should then be considered for it. But yeah, never mind. You know me, Jack. I love a horses for courses selection.
Right, let's get through these other questions we've got. Paul Griffiths, friend of the pod. Paul Griffiths, can it actually get any worse for England? Have they put the family fortune on 5-0, Ross?
No, it's definitely 5-0. No, there's no way out now. We are, our hands are binded, our feet are binded. We've been put on the little spit to be roasted. That's what's happening.
Yeah, England spit roasted by Australia. My Side Cricket. We will be featured on My Side Cricket. That's the Twitch streamer who. Yeah, on TikTok, not Twitch. Yeah, TikTok. I know my technology. Should Gareth Southgate be brought in to manage the England cricket team? Now, I think this is not a bad idea. I think maybe because isn't the egg chasing bloke under a bit of pressure for some reason?
Jones.
Eddie Jones. Yeah, maybe you should just have Southgate manage all England teams. What do you think about that?
Well, do you remember when this is going to be very niche for some people? But do you remember when England won the Rugby World Cup in 2003, and then Clive Woodward decided that he could go and just do it across any sport? He went into football, and he literally
Southampton manager.
Yeah, and it's like I could do this. I'm just going to direct football. It's going to be exactly the same. So I'm not sure it's completely transferable, but maybe there is. And Swadin, thanks for the vibe sticker, by the way. Always very welcome. If you want to send more stickers and more super chats, please do.
Yeah. Anything to add on Gareth Southgate? I can't see Silverwood keeping his job after the end of this series.
Well, I want him to resign after this Test match. That's what I want. I want that. We said there was going to be a mid series. Yeah, what I really wanted to see was some mid-Ashes resignations or retirements. That's what I really want to see.
I don't think that'll happen now.
No.
I think it's... Yeah. Over on Patreon, we should have started with Patreon. Patreon.com/thecricketpod. You have question priority. VJ, do you see any way out for England under the circumstances? This is sort of leading on from what we were just talking about, from a 5-0 end result. Is there something left to see? It does not feel like 3 games. It just feels like the same game on repeat. Well, it definitely feels like the same game on repeat. It's definitely that. Is there any hope over the last 2 matches? I think it could rain in Hobart.
Do you do the rain dance? Do you reckon that's where we're at in this series?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, is there any way out? Tactically, strategically?
I know we've made our bed with selection. With the fact that we sent the Lions home as well is hilarious. I get that there was some logistical difficulties, but any changes we make now, we have to stick with.
About the COVID thing, actually, did we? We didn't mention that at all. The game was delayed because England have got COVID in their camp, so they could still get out of this.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. So one of the family members apparently has tested positive. Before.
Yeah, 2 support staff, 2 family members.
So there is the. I mean, COVID could.
I mean, that could save the 5-0.
Yeah, that could save the 5-0. I was watching Melinda Farrell. She said that Melbourne's had one of the highest rates, and then we're going to Sydney next, and that's had the highest rate, right, in Australia for COVID. And people are obviously rightly so shit scared of it. And so that it could well be a big issue. So pray for COVID, pray for rain. I mean, it feels a bit awful saying that, really.
Shane Dietz, who was on the podcast yesterday, this is a hilarious question. I think he's just trolling us here. What lead do England need to win the game? 150, 200, 250? Root, Stokes, Butler, big 3 need to stand up. He reckons 150 would be interesting. I don't think 150 would be very interesting. I think they need minimum 200. So 150 would make you watch it. It's not a foregone conclusion with 150, but I think you're looking at 5-10% chance. 200, that might goes up to 20-25%.
I suppose that is, Jack, the only thing to take away from today is that Stokes, Root, and Butler are still there. They are still there. They're not out. So we have and Bairstow, yeah. So we can get between a score of 25 and 35 out of him. So there is that bit where I think if there's going to be any hope to cling on to, is that our four best batsmen are, including Johnny Bairstow, our best four batsmen, then that's there. So, but at the moment, like Praveen has just said in that, pray for COVID, pray for rain.
Dixit and Chinton have both asked questions about England's batting lineup. Dixit's asked, why did Joe Root say they are going to win the Ashes based on knowing that was the batting lineup? And Chinton has asked, is there any way you can train the occasionally competent batting lineup to not make monumentally stupid decisions in Test matches? So I'd say on the second point they're only occasionally competent when Root scores runs. Like the rest of them are historically bad. The only thing separating England being the worst Test match team or putting out the worst Test match team they have ever put out is Joe Root. So that's what you have to hope for. Maybe Joe Root thought he was going to score 5 double hundreds. Maybe that's what
you need that confidence. You do need that confidence. I did think that Milan has been actually a good addition to this side. He's not. I mean, I thought he was triggered today. I thought it was a bit of a harsh LBW actually to get. I thought the umpire got caught up in the moment. I think he got caught up in the look, I'm at the MCG. I'm going to make a name for myself kind of thing and make everyone happy. I think it was a harsh one in Milan, but I've liked the cut of his jib. But again, he's not going to be a long-term solution for England, is he? So it's difficult, very difficult at the moment. In terms of Joe Root coming out and saying, "Oh, we're going to win the Ashes," you can't go into it saying what we're going to aim for is losing 4-1 or winning one Test match. Like again, it doesn't send the right message. But but delusions of grandeur.
At least the over rates improved.
Yeah, we might as well not try to lose all of our World Test Championship points.
That's a very good point. I think we've covered most of the other questions. So, Arian, Jonathan, thanks for Amit. Thanks for dropping us a message over on Twitter at the Cricket Pod. Get involved on Patreon, patreon.com/the Cricket Pod. Go back and listen to our Christmas special. Ross, is there anything you would like to address before we wrap up?
Let's have a bit of a chat quickly around India against South Africa,
yes,
if that's all right.
Yeah. Where do you want to start?
Well, yesterday was, I tell you what, I was sitting there watching the cricket when people were coming over for Boxing Day, and I was loving watching Agarwal and Rahul open the batting. They got to, I think it was 117 was that opening partnership. It felt like I was watching a different sport. It was such a nice thing to actually watch. And
this is a bit of cricket.
I was just like, well, hello. And what I was impressed with, but one that like the temperament that they showed, which was good, and they were scoring at a half decent lick as well. It wasn't like they were just completely trudging along. It was pretty good opening batting, really. But it was just one of those stark reminders that India seemed to have 2 or 3 people who could come in that 1 or 2 slot, and they have a pretty high percentage chance of hitting a century.
And they've got Agarwal in, who didn't get a ton in the last match.
It's just that they got that
should be on the bench.
And it's just that I just realised that
Australia last year.
I wouldn't say, I don't think I'm that much of a jealous person actually. But when I was comparing India's batting options with England's options, I was sitting there going, "Oh my god!" Like it's night and day. We talked about
Kohli.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're carrying a bloke who hasn't scored a century, and
Rahane.
Since before we knew how to wash our hands. As Kim said in an article the other day. Yeah, it's.
But I was impressed with him. Ngidi obviously picked up 3 wickets. Pujara got Padrash and then got out first ball, which I did find quite funny. But it was one of those days where the pitch didn't really do too much for a first day pitch. But Rahul and Agarwal did a brilliant job. And this is a bit, we don't doubt KL Rahul's ability. I mean, the guy has just faced 248 balls, hit 122. He is built for Test cricket. The ball eater is built for Test cricket. Absolutely fair play to him. Fair play to Ngidi as well for bowling well. We should talk about a little bit about Virat Kohli and Rahane. Rahane's position in the squad is questioned by quite a lot of people. They obviously have Vihari, who is supposedly coined a overseas specialist. They sent him to South Africa to play in the A-team games, and I think he did reasonably well. I think he got 50s in a couple of the games. Not selected in this one.
They dropped. Flip. My mind's gone blank. The bloke from Delhi.
The bloke, Aya.
Shreyas Iyer. Yeah. He had a pretty good start to his career. He's gone.
Again, that's what I mean. Just imagine England having a Shreyas Iyer. That would be bloody brilliant.
He would be the third English player to score a century this year if he were English.
But yeah, what I found interesting was that ruthless selection, right? They're kind of sticking to their guns, and I'm not sure that's the right thing. But like Pujara again, he's coming to the end of his Test career. Like, is it time to be like, right, come on, Shreyas Iyer, it's time for you?
I don't know. I mean, they've given Iyer a go now, haven't they? So they're going to revert back to the tried and tested away performers, I suppose. And why not? Pujara's pretty good in England. He did the business. He was pretty good in Australia. Rahani's is one of the few Indian players who's better against pace than spin, which is useful if you're going to South Africa, where nobody really bowls spin, or nobody really gets any wickets with spin anyway. So I can see why they did what they did. And if one of them does go down or has a poor series, then you've got a pretty good indication that Shreyas Iyer is good enough for the next level, based on what he did. He's just not necessarily the incumbent. I mean, India, they could select 2 top 5s, and they'd both be pretty good top 5s, wouldn't they? Yeah. I mean, who's not here? You've got Rohit Sharma, Shubman Gill, Shreyas Iyer, Vihari, and somebody else. It would be pretty good.
Somebody else.
Probably put Shikhar Dhawan in there or something like that. It's we're not even talking about him anymore. Depressing.
The other bit we probably need to talk about is Virat Kohli's wicket. It was completely set as well. It was one of those classic cases of looking at someone and you just like, do you know what, today's the day for Kohli. Like, he's not going to get a better day to bat. Sun is out, the bowlers are tired, the pitch isn't doing too much. Like, all you have to do is just stay in and you'll get the runs. And he chases a ball, and there's a picture on Twitter where someone has photoshopped different sets of stumps onto it, and there is 4 sets of stumps, and it is like on the off stump of the 4th set that he's chasing, and he just doesn't need to play it. It's an awful shot, I just don't understand what the thought process is there. You've got to start. You're on 35. You're the greatest of all time, if your PR team's to be believed, and you're doing that. It was just. If an England player,
maybe it's bad now.
Maybe it's bad now. Yeah, maybe
we haven't considered this. It's after the shock of losing the captaincy. Maybe he just can't focus. Again, Will, thank you for the super chat. $5, $5 Aussie bucks, the best kind of buck. Check Agarwal's passport. They say maybe he's part English. I'd take Agarwal. I'd take any of the 2 top 10.
Agarwal wouldn't take us, mate. That's the issue. It's all well and good saying that. It just wouldn't take us. I think,
Who else? I'd take it. Any of the 2 top 5s we named. Jadeja, he's not in South Africa apparently. We could have him. That solves the spin problem, and that gives us another. He could bat
that gives us our number 3.
Yeah. Just give us the people you don't want. We'll naturalise them and turn them into.
Surya Kumar Yadav was the other one we forgot. Thanks, Aditya. There's so many options, and England have. We're scraping the barrel. Going.
It's raining now, though. Did you reckon South Africa can get out of this with a draw? They're probably already looking at a draw, aren't they?
Yeah, and that's the best hope, right? So we would see. I don't think we'd take Marcus Harris.
You've got to draw the line somewhere.
We have some self-respect. But as I say, Rahane did look good. I agree with that. Virat threw his wicket away, and his adventure to try and get the century over the last 2 years continues. Ngidi bowled well. I thought South Africa kept at it quite well, and they pretty much ended up on quite a good score, I think, India. Based upon averages, I think the average score at Centurion is 274 or something like that, for the loss of 7 wickets. So they're 4 better wickets off, so well done, India.
Oh, nice work,
Yeah. Anyway, I think that's all we.
Right, let's
all
wrap
we
it
have time
up.
for.
Let's wrap it up. 54 minutes on the clock. It's been a long one. There's a lot to talk about. We'll be back probably to wrap up the test tomorrow morning, about 9:30. We're all on holiday, so we're having a.
If you're watching the video, like it.
Yeah,
the video.
subscribe, give us all your
Share it,
money
share
on
it,
Patreon,
share it.
patreon.com/thecricketpod. Super chat, other do, or share it. Yeah, go and spam this on your social media feeds. Tell your friends, family, enemies that they should watch. Spotify, rate us 5-star. iTunes, rate us 5-star, etc., etc. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for watching, for listening. Goodbye.
Just going to close my 5 stages of grief tab.